All right, hey guys, Sam here with you on Monday, October 8th, and we'll do just a quick update here on Bitcoin. There's not a lot that I can add here as we've just essentially gone sideways since the last video I did, I think, was Friday. So there's just a couple of pokes up here, but they seem to be technical. So just to review a couple of things here. So again, until we break this pattern of these technical pivots here, within the algo range here, again, as I've shown this before here, if we go down to our next little shelf, we're right into the golden zone. This was golden zone. The price. So we have all of these targets below the market, right? So again, I've shown this multiple times here. And even this last one here. So if we go from our pivot here to our low here, where we've come up here and wicked into this prior level of resistance here that I've wicked off here, that even coming back down here. So target would be the prior low. So that would at least give us the potential for this bottoming action here at these prior lows. So really we're stuck in this 700 point range. So if you just look here, again, let's just open this up a bit here. So this level, and we've marked this off repeatedly multiple times here. So you can see this level here that the market resistance, support, breaks it, comes back, resistance, support, now it's the resistance again. So you see this, just this range being carved out, and then we have this down here, right? So here we support, right? So that is clearly a significant, the 6100 is important to the market, and then we have our absolute low down here from this range of 5700. So what do you do with that? Well, clearly, we have to respect the bias, which is to the short side, right? So even just working through this series, none of these pivots have actually reached their target. So it's all weight below the market. So then you ask yourself, okay, well, what if we break one of these? Well, if we break this 65 up here, let's call it 6,900, 7,000, we get a good break here. We would have the ingredients for a potential move that would be significant. The problem we have right now is we don't have an algorithm working with us. So if I squeeze back up here, we look at these, there's no buy side algorithm here that we have behind us working with us. So regardless of anything that I use, even here at this swing here, we've gotten this break here. It's just a consistent series of, if I go back again, which would, there's no buy side algo that we can count on to be pushing us toward a target. Now, if we break, so take note here. Now, if we break this, then we will have an algo that would be there to support the buy at the first 50, right? So just again, on the assumption that we break here, so we will have a pivot that we can use. Of course, we'd want to be checking all of them here, but this would be the recent swing. Wrong one. So if we grab here from our line, and let's say we break here, then this will be the next buy opportunity. We won't necessarily have a clear Elliott pattern, but we would at least have an algo play. Now, of course, that algorithm has that target here. So if we get this break of that 65, the next retrace would be the next opportunity for us to put some, of course, without the confluence of pattern, price, geometry, all of the things that we'd look for, this would be something I would encourage you to take a bite size on. There's just no reason to go heavy there without any resolution, without a pattern that we can be clear about, and the idea that we still have multiple significant swing pivots that we're going to need to get through. So next one up would be this 7,900. So if we break through that, then of course we've got to go to all the way halfway back. Sorry. So if we break that, then we have to get this one here, right? So if we go to our absolute lowest low. So even if we get a push up here towards if we have a potential 1, 2, 3 going in, that's going to run into some stiff resistance here, and then this would be the big one. So a break up here beyond, well, let's call it a good close above 8,600 would confirm and give us some confidence that perhaps we had a low in. Now, the one thing that I will show you here is that there are some additional bearish patterns that we're faced with here as this is just moving sideways. Now, these are commonly known as harmonics, and really they're very popular in the FX market, and it's not terribly complicated. It's a series of swings that are related to one another in Fibonacci relationships, whether that be internal or external retracement. So let me take this off here. So with this this level here down here at 4,800 pretty well. This would be the dominant that we'd be looking for. So in a harmonic, you just, so let me show it to you this way. So if we look here and we just go swing high to swing low, well, we have a technical pivot here. It's not exactly on the 618, but we're in that little range. So if we look at that, and let's see if I do it this way. So let me here, I'll just show it to you this way. So in TradingView, these are called XABCD patterns. All right, so it looks like here. So you're just taking the first swing, that would be our A wave. Then we're going to this second level here where it's going to mark off. You can see here it's marking off how far it went. Then we go down to our next pivot here. You see that's it's going to tell you how low it is. That's 84.5, so fairly close. So if we go up here, now this would be a function of this would potentially be a Gartley, so the 786 would be a target up here. So again, it's just a series of fib relationships that are technical. So there's always a little bit of a range that we can allow for here. For example, this isn't a perfect, although if we came down here, you can see here now we'd be right to the 64, we'd be right to the 65, 63 and change in between those two, of assuming I've got this pivot right on that. But I tell you the truth, I would use the dominant. So we're in the range here between the 50 and the 618. So we have a potential Gartley setting up here. So you see this as we come down here. So let me show it to you again. So you look at this relationship as they start to relate to one another. So here's the 786, the 887. So you would be in that range between the 786, 887. But this kicks up here and gives us a target. Well, you'd have a little window between the 786 and the 764. Would be right up here, happens to be right in conjunction with an algo target here at 23 if we were to get some sort of a move here. So let me pull that off. So this off as well. So that's what that looks like. But the problem with that for bulls is that implies that's a potential turning point, which would suggest lower prices. So if you were looking for some common targets here, first target would be perhaps a return here to 38. Any of these would be potential targets. So if you were setting up a trade there, this would be a short position here. So if you're setting up a trade, we really could be fairly tight here, as you don't want this going beyond. So it sets up an alternate pattern, which would have you up here. So you might get a butterfly or a bat here. So if we hold right here at this 786, with a target down here at this prior range, well, there's 4 to 1, and that could have legs. It's going to go down to some of these other targets here, but that's not a bad little trade that sets up. So you look at it here. So if you're just trying to put it into context, you're trying to sell into this range here, which would be the 764, 786, right in that pocket right there. So potentially, and that would give you some targets down here. This would be a good first target, is be the 38 on the way back down, and ultimately you'd have this target down here. So just something to keep in mind. I haven't spent a lot of time going over harmonics. They can be very effective, right? So you see this combination where you end up with 1, 2, 3, 4 pivots that are all related to one another by some sort of fib relationship. Can be very interesting. So ideally you'd get this right at you'd have a pocket between the 1272 and the 786. So this would be a range up here. So this would be your window to be looking for a sell signal if you're interested in those kind of trades where you have that relationship that can be very effective, but you have to be very precise about a stop. So risk reward is what you're after there. So there's 3.5 to 1. Something to keep in mind. Well, we may look some more at some of the harmonics. There are a good number of them, and all similar concepts here. But as certain levels are taken out, then you go into another pattern. So you can bats, butterflies, crabs. There's all sorts of different swing relationships here. It's worth looking into, right? They can be very effective as potential turning points. So all you get here is a potential reversal zone based off of that pattern. All right. So something to keep in mind. But in the short term, as relates to what we're looking for, there's no trade here. There's no reason to. Why? What are you buying into, right? So you could make a case that there's an investment here. That Bitcoin down here, well, we're 6,600. If you're a long-term bull, that seems reasonable. We have a fairly solid floor down here around 6,000. So you could make an investment decision about your interest in being long of Bitcoin into the end of the year, or you name your time frame here, but there's no technical trade. The technical trade, all of the technical trades are set up on the short side. Now, that doesn't mean that couldn't reverse quickly. So any break, even this break here, would at least give it, even if we got this to break, this 65 here, then quickly this could be, we could reformat our thinking here, because then we'd have a buy-side algo behind us, right? As to what the Elliott count ends up being, take this off now that we have this established here as a potential reversal zone. I'd love to see this break. I'd love to see a good bullish break out of this. I'd love to see us get beyond this 65. That would, for a number of reasons, none of which are necessarily tied to me being long Bitcoin. It's just, it would give us something to work with. Right now, we've got very little to work with. It's just sideways, right? It needs a spark. So the other line of thinking is kind of the calm before the storm thinking. That as we have just kind of essentially, we're flatlining here in this, even if you expand it from this 700-point range, this swing range that we're in, as this starts to just flatline here, there's the idea that it's potentially you have strong hands accumulating. You can make that case here that ultimately now this is just, so one of two things likely to happen. Either we're going to break out of this, we're going to go hit some of these larger targets, some of these algo targets, so algorithms can hit that target. That should create some buying pressure, potentially would set up for the first 50 that we could buy into. We'd have some resolution of perhaps of some of these patterns here that remain unresolved, and we'd have potentially now something to work with here of different swings. But right now, this swing, retrace, swing, retrace, swing, retrace, while we're going into this flatlining period here, until it breaks, you can't put your bullish goggles on and just say, well, looks like it's enough. Looks like it's flatlining. It's about to break. I know it's going to come. There's just no reason to pursue that. It's too high risk, right? Shit, for all we know, this breaks down here. There's just no way to know which way we're going to go here. So without any technical hooks and without an algo that we can lean into, I would tell you it's not a great time to be in this market unless you're already holding, right? So then if you're holding, well, then you're a long-term holder. But there's no technical reason to be entering the market here. So I would encourage you to keep your powder dry. Let's let the market establish which way it's going to go here, and then we can come back to this when we've got some new pivots to work with that give us some clue of what's most probable next. Until then, you're just rolling dice. All right, okay, guys, I'll wrap there, but I'll be back. I'm going to try and do one more today. Okay, that's it for now.